It's cold outside. Snow on the ground. Trying to think of a project. I got one. Today, we're going to turn some pine boards into a nice bin to put rock salt in for the driveway and such. Something I've got, something I can make it look a little bit nicer in the house. Let's do it. Okay, first we're going to go ahead and start over at the miter saw. This is when we're going to cut our main boards. Just basically 4 outside boards. We're making a box. It's fairly simplistic structure. We're going to pretty up just a little bit, but it's a functional box to store rock salt. So we're going to get those cut. Very simple measurements, basically 4 cuts exactly the same size. And we got our 4 boards. Now we're going to get a little bit creative and make it a little pretty and go to a 5-degree angle. We're going to cut 2 of the boards with 5-degree angles on each side to give it a little bit of a V shape. It's absolutely no part of function at all. It just makes it look a little bit more interesting than just a square box. So I'm going to cut that 5-degree angle. Flip the board over, do the same thing, and on this I'm using the laser on the saw and lining it up. Makes it so much quicker and easier than I have to measure it out, but either way it's not a hard thing to do at all. Simple cuts. And over to the table saw. On the table saw we're going to be cutting out a dado. This is a very common thing. I'm not using a dado stack, I'm using a single blade. So I'll show you how to make that happen because not everybody's got a dado stack. I'm using a little digital level right now to set my blade height. You got to zero it out on the deck of the table saw and then clip it to the blade with magnets, and you can adjust your blade to make sure you're at a perfect 90 in our case, or a 45 or a 30 or whatever angle you're looking for. These are highly recommended little piece. They're only 35 bucks-ish, 35, 40 bucks, and they are a great little item. They have improved the heck out of all my angles and cuts and everything. I like my table saw, but this has made it way more accurate. Okay, now I get my blade height set. I'm going to be cutting through about half the thickness of the board. This is just kind of an arbitrary, it doesn't need to be anything real specific. I'm using 3/4 inch wood right now, so I'm going to be setting it to about half and just eyeballing it's perfectly fine. Definitely not an important measurement. We're not building furniture. So now that I got that set, I'm going to set this to about a 1/2 inch. This is cutting out a dado for the bottom board in this box. So I do my cuts. And you'll notice on the second board, this board is bowed pretty decently. So I'm checking to see which side the bow is on, because I want it to basically bow out on the box. I don't want it to bow in. That way the lid will get a little bit looser, but it won't get too tight to where it won't close. So I've got that adjusted and checked for. Now I'm going to go ahead and run through, and then I adjust by about 1/8 of an inch, run through again, adjust by about 1/8 of an inch, run through again. Just keep doing it over and over. Every so often checking to make sure that everything is getting close. You don't want to go over, you just want to go up too, so you can kind of gauge how close you're getting. Adjust 1/8, keep going. Adjust 1/8, keep going. It's just a long process, the exact same thing over and over and over. Adjust 1/8 and keep going. And now we'll check. We got a good fit there. So we know in the right spot. We can go ahead and finish off these last cuts. And now we've got a good fit on all of them. Clean off a little bit of tear out. And I always generally try and bring my blade down just Just a little bit of safety, just keep from forgetting about it. So I got my main 4 boards cut. And now we will assemble them. Simple assembly, nothing too rocket sciencey. We're going to do some sanding first. Going over all the boards, basically just taking off any chips that came out, kind of just breaking the corners a little bit, nothing super sculpting or anything, just cleaning it up. We'll do our actual like rounding over sculpting a little bit later, so this is just clean up. Now I bring out the air nailer. This is an 18 gauge nailer. I'm going to be using 1-inch staples. And after doing this, I would actually recommend going 1 1/4 if you've got them, just to give it a little bit more bite to it. Plug it into the compressor. An air nailer is the greatest thing ever. You can do it hand nails, you can do it with about anything, but I've been very, very happy with my air nailer. Okay, now you get to watch me make a mistake. Keep in mind I have 2 square boards and 2 V-shaped boards. Set up my glue. Double check my overall fit of everything. Like I said, the boards have a little bit of a bow in them, and I know that going in, so I'm just kind of double check to make sure everything fits right. Spread around the glue. And then go through the process of connecting the wrong 2 boards together. I have 2 of each board, and I just connected 2 of them together that are the same board. It should have been 1 of each. And of course I go ahead and staple these together and glue them together. Double checking everything. The fact that it doesn't line up perfect is not a big deal at all. We'll be fixing that and sanding later. So now I'm getting ready to attach my next board. Getting the glue out, getting it ready. This bottle of glue is just about empty, so I need to finish it off and switch to a new bottle. Get it all smoothed around for good contact. And this is where I realized I've connected the wrong 2 boards together. So apart they come. This was the one plus about using a little bit shorter staples, was they came apart pretty easy. So I can go right back to connecting the correct boards together. There's still plenty of glue on there, so I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some staples. Got that ready to go. I'll grab my other V-shaped board and connect it in the right spot. It's already been glued up like you saw a minute ago. So that's ready to go. Now I'm going to double check the bottom. This is just a piece of wood that I had that should be really close to what it needs to be. So I'm double checking, but it's not actually going to work for what I thought it was going to work for. So I got to trim down. Doing my measurements. Trying to figure out basically from inside of the dado to inside of the dado how far I have in width and height. And this will be just a rectangular board, nothing special. No real interesting skills needed, just a couple of cuts. Figuring out what I need. And I'm going to go ahead and clean off this board real quick before the glue starts to harden up. Go ahead and pop out the staples and clean up the glue. This is always the walk of shame, trying to fix a problem that you just got done gluing up. A little quick tap in each of those staples, pair of pliers, pull them right back out. No harm done. Not the end of the world. This is also one of the pluses of having a painted piece that's just going to be used to store salt. It's not exactly a fine china cabinet or anything like that. It's just a functional piece, so no harm done. But at this point, I'm a little irritated with myself, so I got to double check my measurements just so I don't do something silly again. And I go off to cut myself a piece. Okay, now the bottom piece fits in. And that's how it should fit. Once again, a little bit warped, so gotta make it fit, but it'll fit just fine. And this is a free-floating bottom. This is not glued in, stapled in, anything. It's just held in the dados. That'll allow for a little bit of expansion and contraction without any real damage to the structure. Just put a little bit of glue on my side panel there, spread it around. Getting ready to accept the square panel here in a second. Grab that. Make sure I got turn the right angle. Ooh, almost messed it up. There we go. Glue on the right angle. So, glue in there. Work it around a little bit. And I did not put enough glue on there, so I'll have to put a little bit more. Beautiful, nice even coverage. Glue is your buddy. Okay, now we'll get it in place. A little finagling once again, just due to the warp and a little compression fit. Making sure everything lines up like it should. And put in some staples, basically just to hold it till the glue dries. They'll offer a very, very, very small amount of support, but more so just for the glue up. The glue is really going to do most of the work in this. I'm going to clean this up real quick. But how I cut the dados, you can see those little holes in the bottom. Those are just showing out the side. They're not hurting anything, but I didn't like the idea of the open dado holes there. They look fine-ish, but they're an easy thing to fix. Because I had a bunch of cutoffs from when I cut the 5-degree angle. Those cutoffs will plug these holes. They're pretty much perfect size. So it's a very, very easy thing to do to plug those. Work a little bit of glue in it. Get those wiggled in and packed into that glue. They'll swell up just a little bit and stick in place really well. This one is a little bit fat for that hole, so I'm using a different one. It's a little bit skinnier to transfer the glue over. fit just fine in there. I'm going to grab a clamp. I'm going to put those on before I continue with the next two. So just snug everything together and keep anything from spreading apart. That's the one thing using a wedge-shaped piece on a joint. It can spread it apart just a little bit, or it can be really, really solid and sink in place with the glue. So we're going for the side of sinking in place with the glue. These two I'm going to trim just slightly and take the edge off from there. Beautiful. A little bit skinnier now so they'll fit in the holes. Just slightly too fat. Now they're perfect. Go right in. Little wedge. Perfect. They don't need to go super deep in. They basically just are a fascia piece to fill that hole. A little bit of glue. Soak them in it. Stick it in. Perfect. And now we're going to add a few clamps to it and let it sit and dry. Perfect. Okay, now we're over here to cut our lid. This is the same board that I was using to cut everything else out. I've got my measurements. We're going to get it cut. And this is a loose fitting lid. I specifically do want this to fit loosely. Rock salt is kind of a weird thing that if it gets any humidity trapped in it, it just soaks it up. But it can also dry itself out, so it needs a little bit of room to breathe. It's not something that needs to be kept in an airtight container or anything like that. A little bit of breathing is a good thing. On the miter saw, I've got that laser. Love it. Lets me line it up. I don't have to make a mark necessarily, just line up tape measure, run right through. It's beautiful. And I had mentioned that laser in one of my tooltips videos a handful of videos ago. It's a great, great little item. Not a whole lot of money, and turns any miter saw into a miter saw with a laser. You don't have to have a really super expensive, super nice brand, just any saw. Now I'm going to take a cutoff piece out of my little cutoff pile, and I'm going to make a couple pieces to go inside the lid. The lid itself sits on top of the box. These basically just line it up and keep it in place, keep them falling out. So I got 4 pieces, cut them all just to basically the same length. They don't have to be the same length. I want them to the same length. So got them all cut out. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to add a little bit of just a decorative look to it. This is nothing super functional. It lets it breathe a little bit and adds a little bit of an interesting look. So we're going to do kind of a stair-step vertical cut here. So I got the blade lined up as tight as can be with the fence, and then I go basically 1/8 of an inch in from there. And I probably should have gone a little bit shy of 1/8. Just because I was getting a little bit of like paper thick extra trim there. But move in and add another 1/8. Cut again. Now I'm going to lower my blade down just a little bit more. Move in. Cut it again. Move in. Cut it again. And this gives it a little bit of like a stair-step effect when I drop the blade down just a little bit. So each one of those cuts gets a little bit further out, a little bit further out. Just an interesting, beats the heck out of just normal box. We're going to go ahead and attach on our little centering pieces. first, I'm going to give it just a little bit of a light sanding. The vertical sawing like that can leave some kind of rough edges. So I'm just breaking the edge on those, nothing special. No shaping or anything. This is another one that's just clean up. Hitting your rough edges. Doesn't need a whole lot of work. And these pieces need just a little bit of work. Being cut off from another project, they were just basically rough cut-offs. So I'm just kind of taking the edges off them. This is another thing that I'm not doing anything to them per se. I'm just taking off the extra fibers and splinters and stuff that were on the outside. And now we'll go ahead and connect everything. These I'm going to measure for on the box itself. I'm going to do kind of a little bit of a rough measurement here. I'm just bringing over a piece of wood and making some lines on it. So this will tell me the minimum dimension on the inside that I need. So this is the opening of the box. The box is about 10.5 inches inside. That's the minimum that I need. So that'll mean the outside of my little boards here will need to be at 10.5 inches or less. I think I gave myself about 1/8 of an inch extra total. But it just basically gives me my minimum dimensions so that they can sit inside and nothing, no matter what way it kind of gets bumped to the side either way, it's not going to fall out, it's not going to fall in, nothing like that. So this is my minimum dimensions. So I'm putting those lines, that's basically the inner dimensions of that box. So I'll glue these up. And these pieces have just a little bit of an angle on them. That's just how they were. It's not specific necessarily to this project. I'm going to switch over to use a 5/8 staple. Just enough to, once again, hold them in place a little bit. This should not be a stress piece by any means, so the glue is more than plenty. This just holds them and clamps them in place for me. So that is the inner dimensions of our box. And that's our lid. One thought that I'd had while I was waiting for all this to dry is adding a little handle at the top of the lid. This was not in my original thought process for it, but as I'm sitting there waiting for paint and glue to dry and such, this came to mind. I had some extra rope. I think it's 5/8 rope, something like that. Might be, yeah, 5/8 I think it is. 5/8 rope, nylon rope. Just pretty much would look correct for something like this. So I'm going to make 2 holes. I think they're 3/4 holes with a spade bit. Just nice and easy, not just digging it in, going through, but just let the blade do the work. So make 2 holes. I got my rope here. Double checking my fit. Perfect. Do a little quick clean up here. Pulling off the little tear out on the back. The back is tear out is not a problem at all. Tear out will not be an issue. So my little chunks that tore out there doesn't bother me in the least. And a lot of people, when they would attach rope and a handle like this, they would go through and shove the rope through and tie a knot on the inside. I chose not to go that route with mine. That can tend to make the rope move back and forth. Like if you set it down, the rope flattens out on top of the box. And I want it to have a little bit more shape to it at all times, kind of stay up a little bit higher. So double checking my fit. And after a little light coat of paint that I let dry and got it all ready to go, we'll be back to that in a minute. Right now, my glue is dry enough on here, so I'm going to take my Japanese pull saw. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight one. I'm really happy with it. It does the job. So I'm going to cut these side pieces off flush with the outside. quick and simple job. So all 4 of them. I bet I'm a 1/16 of an inch out when I get done with them, but that'll sand down flush super quick and easy. I just didn't want large gouges in the side of the box. So super quick and easy. I've got those holes filled. They look nice. And now we're back to sanding. This is the main sanding for this. This is when I'm trying to level out any imperfections, anything that's an issue, like the raised up plugs, rounding the corners, just kind of really giving it a work over, getting it to be kind of what I want it to look like finally. Doing all the angles, getting everything rounded over. This is just I'm not making it round, it's just a comfort round. You could probably do the same thing with a router, but I'm a sander guy, I like it. Gives me more hands-on control of what I'm doing. So now that it's sanded, I can check my lid. The lid got a quick coat of paint just to get it ready for the rope. There was a lot of crossover between things drying, so I had time to do it. Okay, now, with the lid painted on top, and I'm not worried about painting the inside of anything, so lid painted on top, here's what I'm going to do. It's a little bit different than a lot of people would do it, but it works for me. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to separate the rope. So I'm going to grab some scissors here real quick. The ends of the rope, it's nylon rope, so they're just melted to keep them together. But I want to separate that out. So I'm cutting the end off, trying to be as careful as possible. What I'm going to do is pull it basically to the kind of bare minimum that needs to be, and then I'm going to staple the rope. I'm going to spread it out and staple it to the inside of the lid. This will keep it in place, keep it from unraveling any further, and it won't sink back in when you let it go of the rope. Which gives me just a little bit of shape I need. Do the exact same thing with the other side. And this one worked out to just kind of spread it open a little bit. It wasn't quite as sealed as the other side was. And I try to keep my ends close to the holes and not pull everything all the way through. And those 5/8 staples are perfect for this. They're not going all the way through that wood, so you can get excessive with them and use quite a few. So now there's my rope handle. And you can see that it keeps a little bit of shape by itself, and doesn't sink right back in and flatten out. So now I catch the sides that I haven't got yet. Just get the paint on those. This was a whole lot of just paint drying. Lots of time watching glue dry, watching paint dry. And we'll bring over our box. And I had added, while the glue was drying, I added 4 screws to each side. These were 2.5-inch screws, and they basically just, I got to thinking about how much weight is probably going to be at this at the maximum, and I wanted something just a little bit more structural, so I put 4 2.5 screws in on each side. Once again, nothing major, just a little bit extra. And now I'm going to add 4 little rubber feet. I had them, I want to say they're 1/2-inch rubber feet, 1/2 inch by like 1/4. Perfect for this. Just give a little bit of soft edge on the flooring. I'm not worried about grip or anything like that. Just a little softening, and it'll help level it out if there's any unlevel part of the wood or part of the floor or anything like that. Makes it a little easier. I'm using 1-inch wood screws to shoot them in, and they work great. They'll give just that little finishing touch. don't think that turned out bad at all. Nice little bin for the rock salt. Perfect. It'll look a whole lot better next to the front door rather than the bag it came in. So this will look pretty snazzy. Okay, if you like this one, don't forget to like, subscribe, reshare. Remember, reshares are huge for us. Everybody in the Midwest, at least, has salt in their house somewhere for the driveways. So this is something they could use. There's lots of videos we have out. Feel free to go through and look through them. See if anything else interests you. Basically, we just really appreciate you watching. We're doing things we love, just kind of sharing it with people. So we appreciate it. Thanks.